Hello and welcome to the latest Business of the Business podcast. I am your co-host, JP John Poz from the Two-Man Power Trip. Of course, joining me is the financial wrestling genius himself, Dr. Lavie Margolin. How you doing today, sir?
Hey John, I'm doing well. I've credentialed up since we last talked. I've started my sports and politics class, and
Nice.
I managed to resist talking about. Well, actually, I did talk about the UFC in the first session, but we're not going to hit the heavy part of the UFC course content till the last third. But I did subscribe to Paramount Plus and watch
Nice.
UFC 324.
I've been subscribed for a long time because they have great TV shows on Paramount Plus. So that was just an easy. You just turn it on, the UFC's on. So that was easy for me. I didn't have to subscribe. Or I already was a subscriber.
You know what I'm catching up on because Amazon has a relationship with them, like they would do previews or whatever. So there was a few episodes of Lioness a few
Good
years ago.
show. Good
So
show.
we loved it, my wife and I, and we don't remember where we were up to. So we're watching it from the beginning now, but it's a good show.
Good show for sure. That's one of the shows that I always watch there. I don't know if they're done or not, but they had 2 seasons of it. It was excellent from them. From UFC standpoint, was that a success or not a success? Because I read literally two exact opposite opinions saying that they only added 1 million new subscribers, and then I read another article said they added 100 million or 1 million subscribers. This is great news. Is that great news or not? I would have assumed more because I've heard that Netflix added way more when they signed up WWE. Whenever Jake Paul was fighting, it seemed like there would be way more people watching than just the 6 million that watching that show. So I don't know. I'm kind of like at a crossroads. I don't know if that was successful or not successful.
Yeah, I think, I mean, for that moment, for that time period, I think it has to be getting 1 million subscribers to a service that many people were not engaged with before. Maybe if you're like a big Nickelodeon family, or John, you're aware of the dramas and all of
Yep.
that. But it wasn't like, I mean, it is a major player now, but it wasn't like the ones that people think about top of mind. So it might take some time. I don't know if just the idea of being part of the package or free, quote unquote, on Paramount Plus instead of pay-per-view model or whatever you would call it. Was the draw. Paddy Pimblett is certainly an engaging character. He said a lot of offensive things that I don't like, but he's very engaging. And I don't think though he's like a game changer. So it wasn't like that they came in with their White House card first, and you have
Yeah.
all these
Yeah.
main eventers. I think, was this the one Kayla Harrington was supposed to be on, but got hurt. So
Yeah.
that
She hurt her neck, so she's out for a while.
so it might be a progressive thing that when you have your like uppermost fighters, that might turn it over. But so you don't want to see this as like a one-time million. It might be the biggest mover, but like progressively moving up rather than people unsubscribing. One of the things I'm trying to figure out though is, do they upload the whole UFC event, especially the main event? Because when I went back, I just see fight by fight, which is convenient, but I like to experience the whole atmosphere and watch, a whole card at one time.
I'm not sure because I thought as soon as you logged in, like when you're actually watching it, as soon as you logged in, you get the whole card. So
Yeah,
I'm not.
when it's live, 100%. I'm just wondering, like in the replays.
Oh, I'm not even sure because I,
Yeah,
I didn't I didn't even try to even look at the replay because I just watched it live. Yeah, that's a good point. I'm not sure how they're going to do it. I know New Japan for New Japan World, they'll do it by match. You could just watch the one match. It'll upload, but after the match is over, there's like a second break, and then it'll start the next thing, meaning that you can actually just watch one, or it automatically will load into the next fight without you having to load it.
that's such a throwback. John, it reminds me of all the opportunity that New Japan had a few years ago when there was sort of like it was unclear who was number two in the US. And like
Yeah.
one of the things everyone would say is like, you have to put it on, all the different, like you have to make it an app that people could download on this device or that device or this service or integrate into that. And they just would not do it or could not do it. And it was such like a missed opportunity.
Big time. Speaking of missed opportunity, what's going on with Triller?
Yeah, so first of all, if you're watching this, I'm giving myself the Barry Horowitz because I
Yes.
don't know, outside of Zach Arnold, I'm not sure which one of us of Fight Opinion found it first, but I feel like if we didn't report it, that it probably wouldn't be a reported story. And then no one gave us, either of us, the hat tip, for finding it, but it was then aggregated to a number of sources because it was a very unique thing. It didn't seem like the days were ever coming where we would get Triller information, in terms of their financial information, and then there was a surprise in there. The loss of a large customer could have an adverse effect on Triller's business. As of December 31st, 2024, Triller had one customer that comprised approximately 20% of consolidated accounts receivable. So that's interesting in itself. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but accounts receivable means that somebody will pay you. So how is it if Triller is hosting AEW pay-per-views and AEW Plus in Europe, wouldn't you be paying Triller to sign up, and like, wouldn't the money be processed there? And then Triller pay its content providers to AEW. So how can it be accounts receivable? So that's my first question. But as of December 31st, 2023, Triller had one customer that comprised over 27% of consolidated accounts receivable. During the years ended, Triller had, AEW, a customer of Triller, which accounted for approximately 24% and 19% of Triller's consolidated revenue. Triller holds a non-exclusive, non-transferable right to distribute certain audiovisual programs that are owned or controlled by AEW on Triller's distribution platform. In consideration for such rights and pursuant to Triller's distribution, Triller TV pays AEW a fixed percentage of all net revenues generated through distribution of such media. So it's kind of confusing there, but irregardless of who's, who gets the money first and who pays, this is pretty significant for a company that took forever to post their financials, was kicked off NASDAQ, lost a tremendous amount of value. Now, institutional investors who bought it super low could have made like 400% on that money. But it seems, even though they're losing money on basically, I think they call it sports streaming category. And I don't think they do any of those like Triller specials anymore, right? With Mike Tyson or the Paul brothers or whatever it may be. So it's really Triller TV, Triller Plus, but it makes revenue, but it's losing money.
Interesting. I'm like kind of confused by all this stuff that's going on with Triller. I feel like maybe that's the intent of it. You know what I mean? I feel like they're always wanting to keep us confused and, and out of the loop with it. Like the accounts receivable, accounts payable. What's going on here with AEW? AEW's carrying the load. But like I don't know, I'm just always kind of fascinated. It's like you never get the full story from Triller, and it always ends up going into like another direction. Like they're on NASDAQ, and then they're off NASDAQ. Like weird stuff going on over there.
It's very shady, and it's always shady when it's like a combination of like companies that don't really make sense together. I think their main thing was like financial services in China or technology, and then you have like Triller issues before they acquired Fight, even where it was like paying music rights owners, for the app, and then they were always trying to like say like, as soon as the US bans TikTok, we're going to be the one that picks up that business. So I asked Grok for some help to break things down here. So I think the AEW part is clear, but nature of the business relationship. Triller TV has a non-exclusive, non-transferable. So I don't know if it's as non-exclusive anymore, right? Because we're into 2025, and Triller AEW distributes their pay-per-views in a number of ways, but AEW Plus is still through Triller, and actually kind of more important than ever, right? Because Australia and that region, they're not, AEW isn't on TV anymore, and they have this stadium show. So it's still a very important part of its business. The important point about accounts payable and receivable, though, outside of what Brock's saying, is that if Triller owns AEW any money, and I'm not a bankruptcy, law expert or whatever it may be, and they're a secured creditor, then maybe AEW could pick up, the bones of this company and have the rights to the Triller TV service. This was speculated on by a promoter that works very closely with Triller. Just not that they would have that information from the company, but just sort of like in speculation. In the US and UK, Triller can distribute certain AEW audiovisual programs. Triller TV pays AEW a fixed percentage of the revenue. Outside of the US, UK, Triller can offer AEW branded wrestling programs. The agreement auto-renews yearly, but can be ended by either party with just 30 days notice. It's not locked in long term. So this is according to Grok. So that's really interesting because Triller becomes a mess. AEW can get out of it, and yeah, they'd have a little bit of trouble, I think, figuring out their way internationally because they've built this ecosystem at the AW Plus. But at the end of the day, they'd be okay. Risks and highlights. Credit collection risk. Triller evaluates customers' creditworthiness, but a big client like AEW means large amounts owed, receivables. If AEW delays payment or reduces business, it hits Triller hard. So that's the part that doesn't exactly make sense to me. Operational divisional risk. Managing such a large customer takes significant management time and resources. I don't know about that. Revenue dependency risk. Losing AEW could have a material adverse effect on Triller's overall operating results. So I think we're kind of seeing that in 2025, right? Because their business has been lessened with AEW.
Yep.
In short, Triller is warning investors that too much of its business eggs are in the AEW basket, and any breakup or reduction could seriously hurt the company. As we share this podcast over socials, I'll reshare this image. I'm very proud of this image that I made with the help of Grok AI of Tony Khan holding the Triller logo off from a cliff. It took several revisions. I was like, when they made a picture of Tony Khan, it didn't even look like him at all. So AI is still a work in progress.
I didn't realize that you made that. I thought that was like the Triller thing or something online. I didn't realize that you made that picture.
No, I'll have to show you sometime, like the 15 steps that it took to get there. But it's probably my proudest AI image so far.
Wow, crazy! I did not know that. I'm gonna see if I could somehow get it out here to post it here. See if I can.
Yeah, we should definitely use it for the part of the promotion of this podcast that you're listening to.
See if I could save it on here. But that's just interesting. I thought that was I don't know why I thought that was the Triller picture. I don't know why I was thinking that.
That would be great. I was like, but it was very important. Like, it can't look like he's throwing it, off the cliff. That he's saving it. So hopefully that comes through.
Damn, I don't know why this won't let me.
So what might work is to do like cut, like sort of like a screen grab, like where you cut the picture and then I save it as like a JPEG.
Okay. Just an interesting little side note here on Tony. What are your thoughts on this possible controversy with him using a burner account to go after what do you call it, the former, well, I guess current agent for a bunch of WWE stars?
Oh yeah, I saw that like more in the abstract that it seemed like people have an issue with this guy for a number of years. I don't know why, and then they were saying that he seemed like that he was like, I saw what he was writing, that it sounded paranoid or whatever. Like, I don't know. It seems odd. I don't know Tony Khan's, how he deals with particular stresses or when he doesn't get along with people. Obviously, CM Punk had his issues with him, but I don't think he has time for that, or it's that important to him. Sometimes you learn later, like even the most successful guys, like, these things get to them. It in a different way, I guess, like in terms of how like people get emotional about these things. There we go, John.
Finally got it saved to the computer. Yeah, I realized you just have to save. Okay,
yep. It looks even better now that I'm looking at it again. But I guess I'll have to make one now where Tony Khan's like signing into X or something under a different name. But there's this guy, I don't know if you ever heard of him, Seth Godin. He's a very successful like business speaker and author. So he's written like 30 books. And like when he was starting his career, it was like a novel thing to do, like make images from your keyboard, like smiley faces and things like that. So somebody on Amazon years later had posted like a bad review that kind of like that it was a stupid book, and he still checks them. And he actually commented and was like defending himself. I'm just like,
Wow.
you're wildly successful. Why do you worry about these things? But still, there's like people get emotional.
Remember Kevin Durant, the great basketball player, got caught with a burner account on Twitter. He was like commenting back to people and even other players and stuff, and apparently he got caught with the burners. You never know. Never
Yeah,
know.
everyone ends up screwing those up because you just right. It's so easy to switch back and forth, but sometimes you forget, and once you do it, you're screwed.
Yeah. The only thing is, which is weird, the guy, Ron, deleted his account. If it was a real person, why the heck would you feel the need to delete it? You're Ron. You don't need to delete your account. You know what I mean? It was weird. He deleted it after Nick said he had proof that it was a burner. So I was like, wow, that's not a good sign for whoever it is. Could be somebody who works at AEW too, or like a friend or another wrestler. So obviously they felt like, oh shit, I better delete this.
Yeah, but you could just imagine like a crazy wrestling fan, like if they're aware of this thing, they're like, I'm going to help Tony Khan.
Yes. Yes.
And we could see that with like some TNA people, not anyone we know, but
Right. Right. Right.
just like I mean, each group has their own crazy stuff. I don't like. Are there
No,
people that
I've seen though some crazy AEW fans. Like he posted, I guess, a picture. He was at a show. The agent was at a show with his daughter, and these fans were like making fun of the daughter and stuff. I was like, man, these people are like literally sick, like, mentally ill. So you never know that they would do. Like, I'm going to defend Tony. I'm going to create Raw on this made up account. I'm going to go after this guy. You never know.
Yeah, like especially with the kids, like we're just careful of that. Just like I
Yeah.
think it's like a
Yeah.
best practice with like family, like not like if you're putting yourself out there publicly. And I'm always like, whenever I see like wrestlers or whatever, like sharing pictures of the kids, like, oh, okay, yeah, that's nice. And then my second thought is like, that's not smart. Don't put it out there just because there's a lot of crazy sick
Sickos. Yeah.
people.
Yeah. Yep. Now, speaking of TNA, what is going on with TNA right now?
Sure. I thought you were saying, speaking of crazy people.
No,
No,
no.
but with TNA, so one of the things to note is that I think they're like taking their foot off the gas a little bit in terms of like the need to like do record breaking numbers or like this high watermark, in terms of like attendance. I think maybe that was like a priority when they were
To get the
looking
deal,
for,
maybe to get the AMC deal,
yeah,
maybe.
for a TV deal. And this is just total speculation that maybe that had to do with like the amount of free tickets distributed, or maybe it's just the time of year. People don't go out when it's cold or whatever. Or even like as we speculated on last time, that NXT, when people were just exposed to TNA through NXT, it was like a cool thing, either invaders or just you get to get like a hint of the talent, but you can't really see it because you don't have access or whatever. Now that people see it, it's just not as cool as it used to be. I'm not sounding the panic alarm, but just something to watch as we look at the numbers so far. Whereas being over 1,000 for TNA a couple years ago was reason to celebrate, but they are in bigger venues and so on. So just final numbers from WrestleTix, the Tingley Coliseum in Albuquerque, January 22nd and 23rd. 22nd, it was 1,296 tickets distributed, 172 free tickets through Vetix. The second day, 1,432, 223 tickets for Vetix. It's actually interesting that Vetix was offering up to 500 tickets free for both nights. I don't know if so obviously they weren't taken up. You have to be a veteran or family to go. Yep. But I don't know, based on populations, is there like particularly more vets there? Is that near a base or whatever it might be? But not all the free tickets were utilized. Now, Nashville, the same venue that NXT will be in, that we'll talk about, forthcoming. Plenty of tickets left for February. Just actually has been on sale not that long, in a smaller venue there, a more of like a theater style venue. Now, Gateway Center in College Park, Georgia. This is in March. Tickets just went on sale. about 357 tickets the first night and 363 the second, so basically the same. And in late March at the Ilario Center in Westway, really New Orleans area, first few rows have been sold there. So early, we'll see. And something that's already been talked about and whatever, but good to come back to is the ratings for TNA did hold up in the second week, which is obviously very impressive and a positive. Not to shade it away, right? Like people always say, okay, there's good news, and then you find a way to knock it, but it's a low end, right? Like, so it could really swing. So what I'd really say to do is from now till week 10, let's see how the number swings or stays the same or whatever, and then we'll have a sense of like where they're going.
Man, it's just a interesting thing when you look at like the ratings. So it's 173, right, for the first week, 171 for the second week. But then to see that was the second highest rated show in AMC. So it's like in one instance, people are saying, oh, it's terrible. They should have been dead. They should do this. Apparently, AMC, just as the station, they're probably happy with them just because that's right in line with their top shows now.
Oh, I didn't see that because right last year it was like, what did we
Way
have?
more.
Like 50 to 300,000 viewers, maybe even higher. So maybe is AMC, do they still produce original shows where like there might be a show that like spikes the number, kind of like when MLW was very, very briefly on Reels channel, and Reels was like that cop show that would do like huge ratings, but nothing
Oh,
else.
yeah. Yep. On Patrol Live.
Yes. So
Yeah.
so AMC, I'm not sure, what would
Yeah,
swing it,
Dark
but
Winds maybe, or maybe one of those spin-offs of Walking Dead would do good numbers. I'm not really sure.
yeah, no, I was thinking Walking Dead. I had heard that they hadn't made the actual show in a while, but maybe a spin-off or something like
They
that.
have a bunch of spin-offs, yeah.
Okay. But
Which
for
apparently are going to lead to them coming back together for Walking Dead again. So it's like, oh God, what
oh,
have you
okay.
done?
So they'll
Yeah.
if TNA lasts in this relationship, that'll be really good for them.
Yeah.
But the challenge, it's sort of good and bad if AMC overall does bad ratings, because it's good that you want to be above the station average and certainly among the top if you can. But it's bad in that you don't get to promote your show as much on a station that people are watching. But as we talked about weeks ago, AMC seems to have its moment around the holidays with all the holiday movies that people seek out.
Definitely. So what about NXT? It seems like the Street Profits are going to maybe help out some of the NXT live shows. What is going on with NXT?
Okay, John. So you actually answered my question because I didn't have the chance to see, because I had heard WWE main roster talent was coming to NXT. I think, I think we talked about this a number of times. I think that's a really important and smart move, meaning that you have markets, not necessarily Nashville, but you have markets like Knoxville and Birmingham that WWE main roster doesn't really come to anymore. And you can supplement it with main roster talent that, some people would never go to NXT, but if they're familiar with main roster talents, they might go. You don't want to like sort of water it down to the point that it seems like WWE light, but that it has more of its own distinction. So they're doing a triple shot, and Knoxville, as we're recording this, we don't have a final out number, but this is just prior, probably from WrestleTix. So Knoxville Civic Coliseum, pretty big venue on the map that sort of like what they had opened up 5, 4, 6, 7, but it was set up for 2, 1, 3, 7 and 1, 3, 9, 5. So not tremendous, especially if you're sending talent there. Nashville, not looking great either, and that's as we're recording this tonight. And that's beyond the second row. It looks like seats are available everywhere. I don't know. Well, actually, I don't think the fairgrounds is open anymore, but that seems like it would be a more appropriate location. And the 31st, the Boutwell Auditorium, right? All these old, Nashville is somewhere different, but kind of like that old WCW or territory feel. The Boutwell Auditorium, 802 tickets. So maybe, they should have sent the Undertaker player to really spike the sales, because it's not looking great.
That's interesting too, because if you look at New Japan, they're like double that for this show in New Jersey. And we were saying like we didn't think that was that great. And they're doing double of NXT shows, right? I mean, so New Japan, I mean, maybe that's not that bad for the New Jersey show for New Japan.
Yeah, I guess for the NXT, time will tell. And like why, right? If the numbers continue to be low, or I mean, there have been tours that have done better, but if it's regularly sub 1,000, but they get on the road for house shows 3 or 4 days a month, it shows that they're probably speculatively look okay with losing money because it's a good way to um, get the talent reps and sort of get out there. I think there's a lot of value if you could bring in people for fan affinity. I think that I don't know if they have the infrastructure anymore to bother with this, but as I talked about, I think that they should work very closely with the CW affiliates in town, sort of that old school thing where you have promotions leading up to it. The newscasters have a little segment. You have the talent come to the studio. Really make it a thing. And you can increase your numbers. Obviously, it's a trade-off in terms of having the staff coordinate all of that, sending the talents, flying the talents in and out for that sort of thing. But that's what I would be doing. Or going back, the second outcome is that they stop doing it, and then they realize we're just losing too much money. I think there could be a middle ground where you are more regularly running in Florida and sort of the Gulf Coast. They're not too far out here, but where or crossing over into it a little bit, where you promote it somewhat in sort of like somewhere between a theater and a gym, depending on what it is, and try and just get them in front of people. But with New Japan, like you mentioned, the show in Trenton, February 27th, so less than a month now, John. It seemed like
Yeah,
a long time ago.
coming by quick.
Ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1,568 tickets, plus 107 in 7 days. So not bad. 1,568.
Not too shabby considering where they were at to where they're at now. Not too bad, about 1,600 tickets. Speaking of New Japan, I know they've got their relationship with MLW. What's going on with MLW? Because I thought Battle Riot was going to be live on YouTube. It's not live until next week. So spoilers already out there. Who won the Battle Riot? Who's the new champion? So interesting developments from MLW. What's going on with them?
Yeah, so Battle Riot 8. I don't know if WrestleTix will have like a final accounting of the number, but the last count that I saw was 716 tickets. Card set up 936, and there's a GA section as well. It looked like a pretty small building. The pictures that I was seeing there weren't risers as well, so maybe 1,000 people is possible there. But it looked like a good atmosphere. Spoiler alert, right, John? Killer Cross is their new champion, which makes the most sense. One of the biggest names out there. He wants to be there. They want him there. It's all good. February 7th in Chicago has been sold out. Another strong venue for them. Center Stage in Atlanta is starting to thin out as we get closer to March 14th. And the South Carolina show, a little bit unclear how much of the theater they had put on sale, but things look to be moving, although there's plenty of seats still left in the front row, but that's not till April. So of anyone, MLW sort of is picking the right venue sizes for itself right now. And one way or another, they're finding a way to fill it up so they look good on television. They have some names, as I've talked about, just looking at the special last time, they could certainly improve with their production. So now that they'll be familiar with this venue more in South Carolina, that would be something interesting to watch for, to see like if it's a better production in April. Certainly, maybe I'll pop in to look at this Battle Riot show once it drops next week on YouTube.
How about GCW? How about Game Changer? What do they got going on right now?
So Game Changer Wrestling, just looking at a few things. So one of their strongest venues has been LA, the Ukrainian Culture Center, as we've talked about, February 14th. Their fourth row is sold out, but 10 or more tickets in the second row, third row, second row of the stage, third row of the stage, and so on. So kind of slow. Number of times, I don't think it's been this slow in a while, but number of times it was looking slow and then picked up and looked pretty much full, if not completely full as it used to be back in the day. But like, I don't want to belabor all these places that GCW is going, and it's like second row available, second row available, second row available. So, but that's kind of like the state of things. Like last time I looked for Harrah's in Philadelphia, it was that with a lot of other venues as well. But looking forward on the hottest tickets for the collective weekend, Josh Barnett's Bloodsport, interestingly, just had the fourth row and GA, set up, whereas in the same venue, seventh row and GA is available. But as of right now, so it's just GA. So they're nearly there, in terms of their setup. Sometimes you'll see, and I haven't seen in a little while, where GCW will, once the fourth row set fills up, then you open up the fifth, and beyond as much as you can. Toy Janelle Spring Break, seventh row ringside, 10 or more tickets. Death Vegas, 10 or more tickets. So more than a week, sort of like sticking there, in terms of rows. And Effie's Big Gay Brunch has fourth row ringside tickets available.
Here and there, your favorite topic of all time. What is here and what is there?
So Winnipeg Pro Wrestling, they seem to have a formula, right? They had that once a year show in the summer that popped a big number, and they're coming back with something unique, a full symphony orchestra. So, I have to be a smart aleck, and I tweeted, what about Jeff Jarrett and Bill Dundee? I don't know if you ever saw that footage, John.
Yeah. Amazing. So, with Dutch and everything, yeah.
So they said, whoever's, probably the owner, I'm assuming, of Winnipeg Pro Wrestling had tweeted out, no, that was just a 10-piece orchestra. This is a full orchestra. Yeah. I don't know enough about, that sort of thing to know whatever, but fair enough. And certainly, no matter what, it's working for them. Over 2,000 seats are gone. John, do you think this is wrestling fans, orchestra fans, or this is a crossover of the two, or just something unique?
It's something unique. I feel like somehow it's being like a crossover, but I think because it's so unique.
I wonder if then, you see that gimmick being repeated across.
Yeah, if it's successful one place, you're going to see it other places.
Yeah, Winnipeg's a little bit off the radar, so I don't know how many people will notice it in the U.S. I was about to sound like somebody not from the U.S. I was going to say in the States, but yeah, it's definitely worth exploring. That would be interesting. GCW presents with the New York Philharmonic.
Yeah, Brett needs to do that. Yeah.
That'd be great. MDK. Hear the music. Then we have a number of here and there's. So in talking about continued unique events. So, minor league hockey, minor league baseball. There was always all different sort of promotions going through and wrestling, but this is the third year that the Edmonton Oil Kings have hosted Love Pro Wrestling, and it's integrated in an interesting way. So from CTV News, the world of hockey and wrestling came together Sunday during the Edmonton Oil Kings game, where fans took in some action rinkside. The third edition of Oil Rumble saw professional wrestlers grapple for glory under the lights of Rogers Place. Love Pro Wrestling hosted the matches in front of the crowd of nearly 8,000 fans. Spencer Love, founder of Love Pro Wrestling, that's awesome, said Rumble gives them a chance to get some new fans interested in independent pro wrestling. There isn't much opportunity sometimes to get new fans, said Love, and that the normal programming takes place at the Rec Room South and attracts about 300 people per event. So that's a great way for exposure, 8,000 people at the hockey venue. And I love that sort of it's intermixed. It's not just, at the end if you want to stay, or it's not just the pre-show. It's you're getting exposure at all these different points.
And before we talk about anything else, we have a special guest joining us right now. Lavie.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Hi, Julia. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Good. So welcome. Just to give a little bit of context here, As everyone knows that listens to the show, I'm a big Google keywords alert person, and I came across a very interesting article from the WSU University on their new news editor, Julia Kirk. And I was like, okay, let me find the keywords and the connection there. And where I learned about Julia's passion for writing about wrestling and aspirations to become a professional wrestler. So I thought this was a wonderful opportunity to see that cross section. And also, as two guys in our mid 40s, we have a certain perspective on wrestling, and sometimes it all gets filtered through there. So it's very cool and interesting to hear somebody's different perspective, and that allows us to learn more about the business.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let me turn it over to John.
So just background, like we're obviously Northeast guys, so we're like WWF guys just by nature, WWE guys from the Northeast. So where did you grow up, and like where were you a fan, or were you a fan growing up?
Yeah, so I grew up in Springboro, Ohio, around Dayton. I've lived here my whole life, and I actually did not become a pro wrestling fan until last year, the 2025 Royal Rumble. No
Wow.
one in my family had ever watched wrestling. I had never been introduced to it until a couple of friends said they were watching the show. All I knew was Rhea Ripley, and I was already a huge fan of her outside of wrestling. So I said I would watch the show, and I haven't missed any since.
Wow. Why Rhea Ripley, and what were you like, just following her on social media maybe?
Yeah, I found her through social media when she started to really blow up around 2022, I think. And at the time, I still didn't really understand how the wrestling business worked. I thought the whole storyline with her and Dom, I thought that was all real, and was just getting really invested in that whole storyline. And then just seeing her and what a talent and how strong she was. And she just became very quickly someone that I looked up to a lot.
So with her though, was it the like the charisma, the look, like what about her like
Mhm.
stood out for you that you were saying, oh, she's awesome, or like
Yeah.
she's like going to be somebody like I'm going to keep following?
It was the fact that she was such a powerhouse in the ring, that most of the other girls, were smaller and more fit. And then here she comes, and she is just so strong, and she gets in there and she commands the ring, and she can take anyone down. And she does it with, like you said, such charisma. And the fact that the whole crowd was just behind her from the start, I was like, there's something special about this girl, and I want to keep seeing where she goes.
So you loved the Royal Rumble last year. You were a big fan of the
Mhm.
Rumble.
Yes, I
Both Rumbles,
was.
the men's or the women, or both?
I didn't unfortunately get to watch all of the women's. We had some technical difficulties, but I did get to see all of the men's match. And a lot of it was very confusing for me since I still was trying to learn. My friends who I watched with, they've been wrestling fans their whole life. So they're trying to get me caught up, explain what's going on as I'm watching. But just the showmanship of it, the athleticism, I was just drawn to it from the beginning.
What did you like the most? Like, going back and watching, like what stood out the most to you? Like as far as like, wow, I'm going to start watching this more often now.
What stood out for me, sorry, the most was learning how it actually worked, learning that, the matches were predetermined, but that they would go out and still come up with these spots on the fly, and just learning how the actual wrestling psychology worked was just so fascinating to me that I was like, I have to keep watching so that I can understand it and how they're putting these matches together, and obviously the storylines and all of it, but really the psychology behind it is what drew me in.
I feel like, man, with wrestling, it's so complex, but people think it's so simple. But it's right.
Mhm.
Like, are you thinking the same thing? Like, there's so much more going into it than
Yes.
you can even imagine.
I remember even I've tried to get my parents to watch a little bit, and my mom was under the impression that they would go out and rehearse these matches from start to end and plan out every spot. And I'm trying to explain to her, no, there is so much more that goes into it, that they have to come up with, that they are still athletes. And that's why wrestling fans get so upset when people say it's fake.
Plus, too, the like that quote unquote the acting part of it. So many guys that aren't
Mhm,
good at it aren't really successful necessarily. Like you have to have facial
mhm,
expression. You got to be able to sell. You have to. There's a thing called
mhm,
register too, where it's like you're selling, but you like you're somebody hits you, so you can't just be like, like you have to register the
mhm,
fact that somebody hits you, and then there's the selling it. So there's like three different aspects just in a punch that necessarily being landed. It is such an intricate thing that people are just like, oh, that's
mhm,
for dummies, and like, oh, that wrestling, it's so silly. No, it's way more than that. Especially if you watch
mhm.
anything on TV, it's more complex than so many other things that are on TV right now.
Absolutely.
When you look at it too, besides Rhea Ripley, who else like stands out to you just as far as some of your favorites?
So I will say my favorite professional wrestler of all time, and this is actually the person that inspired me to want to start training, is Shawn Michaels. When I started watching his matches and the way that he would perform and sell, something just clicked. And I was like, that is absolutely what I want to do. So I definitely give him credit for that. But as for the current roster, couple of my other favorites when we come to the women's are Io Sky is another big one. I'm also a big fan of Tatum Paxley. I know she's still down on the NXT level, but those two really catch my eye. Io, especially because I think that she might be the most talented women's wrestler currently on the roster.
She's getting pretty over too. From when she
Mhm.
started, and you didn't kind of know like what would happen. Now she's one of the most over acts on the television. She gets a pop every time she comes out.
Mhm.
They love EO. I mean, right? And she's probably one of the
Absolutely.
most popular easily.
Definitely.
Are you adapting some of the stuff she does to your training and your style, or are you going to be completely different in your style of wrestling?
I don't think I'll be able to pull off quite what she can do. As much as I love her style of wrestling, I'm also a huge fan of the luchador style of wrestling. I don't think for me personally that would work out. I think I would be more a Rhea Ripley type style wrestling because, I'm even taller than she is, trying to be, a big force in the ring, that type of wrestling.
When did you really start training, and like how deep into your training are you right now?
So I'm actually sorry. I'm actually not very far into my wrestling training yet. Since I'm still in school, I'm focusing on finishing the degree before I can officially sign up with a training school. That being said, I'm in the gym 6 days a week. I've been doing lots of weightlifting, strength training to get prepared for that. And I also have a friend who has done professional wrestling training in the past, who has given me lots of pointers and kind of starting some pre-training before I'm able to start at an actual school.
When you thinking about this, are you getting nervous though at all? I mean, this is going to be a big
Mhm.
undertaking here, just as far as injuries and everything else that could happen along
Yep.
the way.
It
So
definitely is, and that's oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, so you're probably pretty nervous, I would imagine.
Definitely, and at the beginning, it was a thought I had in the back of my mind when I first started watching of, "Oh, that would be so cool, I would love to do it," but I was, "Oh, there's no way I could do pro wrestling." But the more I thought about it, I was like, "It's just like anything else, you just have to put in the work and the time," and obviously, yes, with the injuries and it being a physical thing and you're fighting, it is definitely scary, but I think I'm just so much more excited about it that the fear isn't really registering to me because I'm itching to get into a ring. I can't wait to get started.
Love that. Nice. Let me hand it over to Lavi. I know he's got some questions for you as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure. So I actually work at a university here in New York, and one of the things that I really enjoy is like learning from my students about like how they engage in the world and with media
Mhm.
and those sort of things. When you first discovered, WWE, had you been aware, or did you soon become aware of all these other promotions, and like how did you
Mhm.
engage with them, and like what was, if there's others that interest you, what was it like that maybe like interested you more, and others where you're like, I know that there's 52 flavors, but this isn't for me.
Mhm. Yeah, so WWE, I definitely just had that initial draw because of Rhea Ripley. So I already had some sort of familiarity there with it. And when I started watching, I also became a very big fan of Cody Rhodes. I'm still a very big Cody Rhodes fan. I actually had the opportunity to meet him over this past summer. And I think connecting with the people the way that the WWE superstars do with their fans builds those really special connections and makes you want to continue being a fan of that specific promotion. I have dipped my toe into AEW a little bit, but I'm mainly just focused on WWE for now.
Sure. And have you had a chance to go to like independent wrestling shows, or seen some clips, that sort of thing?
I have seen some clips. I have unfortunately not been able to go to a live one yet. There is a local promotion close to me that I've been keeping my eye out because I would love to go see a show, but there are a couple independent wrestlers that I also just follow on social media because I would love to see where their careers go as well.
Yeah. And what's the flow like in terms of like engagement with wrestling, like the primary socials and that sort of thing? Is it like through Instagram, or I don't want to date myself here, whatever it might be that sort of like engages you in pro
Mhm.
wrestling in addition to the streaming?
Yeah. So I on Instagram I follow every WWE account that I can find and am very involved on there. And I also have a TikTok account where I post pro wrestling content. I actually just hit 20,000 followers yesterday, so that's been a huge thing. I absolutely love getting to connect with other fans through social media.
Oh, that's amazing. Congratulations. I've never gotten anywhere close
Thank
to that. I
you.
think John is in those in those stratospheres, but I might need some tips from both of you. So one of the things I came across is a couple of articles that you've written about pro wrestling, and one is especially intriguing
Mhm,
to me, the fight for equality, the rise of women in wrestling, because it's such a complicated history. And I feel like
mhm.
you could even go back. I mean, you could go back farther, but let's say 1940s,
Yeah.
Mildred Burke, and obviously there was even the movie in the
Mhm,
theaters and so on. You had a lot of positivity for it, and then you had a lot of negative portrayals. And I think sort of like the last 10 years has been very positive in the rise of women's
mhm,
wrestling. I think there's not even so much of a distinction. It's sort of like who's the top
mhm.
star that's going to main event WrestleMania, and people don't worry so much about gender and that sort of thing. So, like, what
Yeah.
did you find in your research, and what more work as a journalist do you feel needs to be done to
Mhm.
bring equality?
Yeah, for sure. So I think, like you said, we do see them now more equal than we ever have in the past. I do think for equality, I would like to see more women's matches main eventing, definitely. I know that was a huge thing when we had Becky Lynch main event WrestleMania, and I believe we haven't seen any other women main event since. So I think that would be a good thing, having that become more normal and not such a big deal to have, oh, a special, oh, it's going to be girls in the main event this time, that can sort of start to become normal. And the only other big thing that comes up when we talk about equality in the WWE, I know this is a big concern and kind of timely right now as we're heading into the Royal Rumble now in Saudi Arabia, and people being upset or concerned about how the women in the WWE are treated when they go over there.
Great. And speaking of men and women and interest in wrestling, we're I know now it's a very broad audience. Traditionally, when
Mhm.
John and I were younger, it was a lot of guys that were interested in it, and
Mhm.
even the programming in the late '80s, early '90s, I'm sure you've heard of it or you're familiar. It was sort of like it was all like toy marketing. So you had like
Mhm.
there's Boys Toys, GI Joe, Thundercats,
Mhm.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, all that sort of thing. And then for girls there was Care Bears, Rainbow Bright, all that sort of thing. Whereas like now
Mhm.
it's not so much of a thing. So for your friends that are women, were they surprised
Mhm.
that you found wrestling, or maybe some of them just love it the same as you?
Yeah, so a lot of people were definitely surprised when I became a fan of wrestling, but I think that's even more just because of who I am rather than being a girl. I've never been a sports person or anything like that. And most of my friends are not into pro wrestling. My two main friends are both guys, and they're the ones who have introduced me to wrestling. They have been watching wrestling since before I was born. But I actually was able to connect with someone through social media. I was able to meet my now best friend, who she's the same age as me. She lives halfway across the country. Never would have met her without pro wrestling or social media. And we're both big Cody Rhodes fans and connected over that. And I love getting to share pro wrestling with her.
So I noticed also in your in the article description it said that you're big on skateboarding. So talking about
Mhm.
AEW a little bit, have you come across like Darby Allin and like his interest in skateboarding?
I actually have not. No.
So that's, I guess, a hat tip, something to check out. Some of the other things he
Yes,
does probably aren't
absolutely.
aren't the best to copy. He's a daredevil and thrill seeker, so quite a lot of dangerous things. But obviously, it's working
Yeah.
quite well for him in terms of popularity and growth in wrestling. But as an aspiring journalist as well, where do you continue to see it cross over? And sometimes people say like um don't do what you love, because like let's say like as a
Mhm.
journalist, right, like there's a dark side to everything. Wrestling certainly has that, and you have to take a critical eye.
Mhm.
Do you like kind of think about that as your career planning, like this is something I'm really interested in, I want to examine it, but like maybe if I do it too
Yeah.
much it might reveal too much?
Mhm. I definitely think for my position at the paper right now, I unfortunately don't have the opportunity to write about wrestling a whole lot. We have weeks in the middle and the end of the semester called BuzzFeed weeks, where we just get to pitch and write about whatever we choose. And that's when my wrestling articles have come up in the past. But outside of that, I actually have a friend who is also into journalism and has been working on starting a sports journalism site. And I'm very interested in working with him on that and kind of taking over the wrestling or just WWE section of that. Just any way I get to write about wrestling and connect two of my passions, I'm a very big fan of.
Great. Thank you. Let me turn it over to John.
What is next for you? What do you like? What's the plan? What's the goal? What are you going to be doing?
So right now it's still definitely heavy, weightlifting, strength training, trying to build muscle and get ready. And the hope and plan is to start in a pro wrestling school next January. So less than a year out. I've already been looking at a couple schools in the area and trying to figure out the logistics of that, but I'm ready to hit the ground running as soon as I can.
How quick would you like to actually have a match? You know what I mean? Like you're saying, maybe 11 months or so, get in there. What's the goal as far as, or is there even a goal or time frame for actual in-ring match?
So for me personally, I don't have any sort of timeline once I get started, because learning it and taking my time to really become as good as I can be and not rush through things. And I would love to take my time with it. And as much as I do want to be performing and having actual matches and in that stage, I'm just as excited about the beginning stages and the learning stages as I am about performing. So however long it takes, I'm ready for it.
And where can everybody find and follow you, just as far as social media, your TikTok, which is obviously blooming, and obviously following your writing as well?
Yes, so we are the Wright State Guardian. That is the school newspaper if you guys want to check us out. And then I am on Instagram and TikTok at Main Event Jules.
Do you have any predictions for the Royal Rumble? Will you be watching the Royal Rumble this weekend?
Absolutely, I will be. I am predicting that Liv Morgan will win the Women's Royal Rumble and Roman Reigns will win the Men's Rumble.
Wow, I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking either Roman or Gunther, but I was predicting Liv to win it. Interesting.
Yep.
Somebody yesterday told me they think LA Knight is going to win. I was like, really? That's a weird one out of nowhere, but
I would be thrilled if that happened, but I don't see it happening.
Yeah, me neither. No, I think it's going to be Roman. Any surprise guesses? Because people are guessing some surprises.
I do have a couple of those as well. Paige Saraya from WWE. I definitely think she's coming back, and I'm very excited. She's another one of my favorites. And I also think that we are going to see Chris Jericho come back.
I agree on both. Look at that. I was definitely thinking that. There's rumors out there. People are saying Stone Cold Steve Austin, but that is one I definitely do not see happening.
I haven't heard that one.
If that happens, I'd be shocked beyond belief, because I can't see him coming back for a Royal Rumble appearance of all things. WrestleMania, maybe, but not Royal Rumble. Yeah. And in Saudi, they're going to get him to fly out to Saudi Arabia. They're, a 20-hour flight out there. No way. I can't see that happening.
No, I don't think so.
Well, Julie, thank you so much for all the time. Good luck in the ring. Good luck with the training and everything.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for all the time today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much.
All
Take
right.
care.
Thank you.
Remember us when you're a star. We will have you back on.
Absolutely, I will. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. All right, Lavie, one final thing. I have to mention this, and you were, chomping at the bit about this one. What is going on with Jericho and Nicole Kidman? What are they doing wrestling? What the heck is this?
I was waiting for the internet to notice who was behind Nicole Kidman. I'm like, is that who I think it is? Your picture is even clearer than the one I was, the perspective that I was seeing. But there's this show called Margot's Got Money Troubles on Apple TV, which is based on a book. Elle wrote a feature article on it. So what does it mean for pro wrestling? Not much directly, except it's sort of one of those things where it just mainstreams it more. I know, like, it's been in the mainstream for so long. Some people say it used to be more mainstream, but it just makes it more acceptable. Kind of the same way that Lucha Libre is now, just because it's around so many different things. But it's a good thing, ultimately for advertisers, for somebody like Julia, that doesn't have to be, embarrassed to talk about liking
Right.
pro wrestling, as it engages people that find an interest in it at different points in their lives, whether it's in college or at any other time. So that's a good thing. But Nicole, please give us a call. Find our socials. We'd love to have you on as well.
Man, crazy. Who would put that on the bingo card? Like the guy put in the thing. That wasn't on my bingo card. Nicole Kidman wrestling. Definitely was not on mine either. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I hope it's Chavo that's doing the training. He had a lot of those gigs for a while. Maybe it's as he's gotten busier, there's more shows doing it. Maybe there's other people too, but it's good to see wrestlers get work like that. And, some cameos from Jericho. Maybe that's what Jericho was up to. Now in the picture, I'm not criticizing anyone's body, but whenever this was filmed, it doesn't look like he was, yet on his diet. I guess you can't really see his lower body, but it's kind of like a weird angle. So who knows? But it looks the same as we last saw him in AEW.
You never know. We may be seeing him very, very soon in WWE. But let's wrap up this bad boy. Head towards the plugs. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at 2Man Power Trip. How about you, Lavie?
Follow me on X, Lavie Marg, LAVIE MARG, and we're so close to 150 members of the LinkedIn Business of the Business group. So 5-6 more members to go, 150. Share, spread the word, all that sort of thing. Like, rate, review us, advertise with us, reach out.
Love it. Thank you, Lavie. Thank you, Julia. Thank you, everybody out there, for listening. We'll see you right back here next week for a little business of the business. We'll see you next week, folks.